How far do I see Optic going in NA alone? That's a good question. So NA this season, like I said, has a lot more of a stacked bubble. And there's going to be a lot. I think there's going to be a lot more teams competing for the top 5 than last season. So my early prediction for the top 5 teams in North America that will be going to the my prediction for top 5 that will be going to the fall major is, I think V1 will go. I think G2 will go. Those 2 teams have been very consistent. And they've stayed the same, so I don't have any reason to predict that they'll fall off. I think Furia are going to go. I think no NRG. So now I've got to pick 2 out of Space Station, Optic, FaZe, and Complexity. Really, really tough one, actually. Very, very, very tough one. Between those 4. Very, very tough one. The fact that it's Swiss is what makes it so tough. If this was a different format, I feel like some teams would perform a little bit better. FaZe struggled with Swiss last season, so did Space Station. I don't think Gen G are going to get top 5 this split. No. But yeah, I think G2, V1, Furia, the fact that they've not changed rosters, I think will favor them as far as consistency goes. And then you've got Complexity, Space Station, Optic, and FaZe have changed rosters, so I think they're the teams that I'm less confident on. I think they're all very, very good teams. And I think whichever ones of those teams do end up being top 5 will be like contenders for any LAN that they go to. I think they're all sick. But the reason I'm less confident predicting them to get top 5 is just because of the consistency issues. So I think I'm going to say FaZe get it. Because I had them higher in my power rankings before all these roster moves happened. And Mist, their addition, is a really good player as well. So I think, yeah, I'm going to say V1, G2, Furia, FaZe, and... Ooh, Space Station, Complexity, or Optic. Who makes top 5? It's tough. It's tough. I think, honestly, I'm more confident for Complexity because it's Swiss than I am for Space Station, Optic. Space Station did well in Swiss yesterday, but there's so many Swiss stages this entire split. There's 3 regionals. All of them start with Swiss. And I just feel like if a team doesn't make top 8 once, it's going to really hinder them because the points that you get are a lot lower. Like the points you get for 9th is 4. If you make top 8, you're getting 6. So it's a 2-point jump. Whereas if you're getting 15th, 16th, you get 2 points. 12th, 14th, you get 3. So it's a 1-point jump, 1-point jump, 1-point jump. Then it's a 2-point jump. Then 3, 3, 4. So it's big jumps the further you go, which I like. I like that a lot. Compared to last season where the jumps were kind of the same all the way through, which I didn't like as much as what they do now. So yeah, I think the teams I'm most confident to make top 5 would be V1, G2, Complexity, FaZe, and Furia. Optic and SSG I need to see more of, just because Space Station were very inconsistent last season, and I probably put LJ and Rattles around about the same level. So yeah, I don't think adding LJ is just a miracle fix. It might be like a short-term kind of honeymoon period buff, because a lot of teams get a honeymoon period boost, but we'll have to wait and see, like long-term, if that change is consistently good for SSG, or if the same thing happens as happened with SSG last season, and that is that they would be very inconsistent throughout every split. Like they'd probably have a bad regional in every single split and kind of fall off regionally as well. Like they got a 2nd place in the spring split, followed by not so good a result after that. And then with Optic, yeah, kind of the same thing. I just need to see more from them. I just don't know. I mean, that's a completely new team. 3 players that none of them played together last season. They might be like insanely consistent. They might be not consistent at all. So when it comes to making predictions, I think I'm a lot more confident picking teams that have, you know, kept at least 2 of the same players. But yeah, SSG and Optic might just be insane. You never know. Sometimes you just get that dream combination of players. But yeah, as far as, you know, does AJ have a better team on paper than last season? No. Does Rattles have a better team? No. Does Magic Bear have a better team? Yes. Does LJ have a better team? Yes. Do Arsenal and Daniel have a better team? No. I don't think on paper their teams have improved. If your name's Daniel, Arsenal, Wrestles, or AJ, I think their teams are right about the same in terms of skill level. But Magic Bear and LJ are the two players who are on significantly better teams. Thoughts on Gen G? I think Gen G are gonna improve as the split goes on, but I don't think it'll be enough to get a top 5 because I'm anticipating a slow start for that team because they're a new team. And Chronic is new to the very top level as well still. I think they're all very talented, but I don't think they're gonna start strong enough to make top 5 this split. Bruh, LJ greater than Rattles. It depends on what though. Like LJ might be more mechanical than Rattles, but I think Rattles is underrated when it comes to positional play. People don't know, like your average Rocket League viewer just doesn't really understand positional play enough to appreciate when a player is doing it well or doing it poorly. Most viewers just watch the game, and you know the only times that they notice a positional play happening is when there's an open net and somebody's going for boost. They're like, aha, that guy's out of position clearly because the net's open and he's going for boost instead of the net. That's like the only thing. That's about as high level as most viewers' positional understanding of the game goes. But you really the one thing that I would suggest you guys to watch if you want to know who's playing well positionally and who's not playing well positionally is look at who like whenever a player challenges the ball, like let's talk about defensive positioning very quickly before I finish the stream here. If somebody challenges the ball in defense, and by defense I don't mean you're in net, I mean when the other team has the ball, if you see a player challenging and then there's a teammate ready to follow up on that challenge, that means that challenge was a good play positionally because you've got a teammate ready to follow up. And in the same way, if you see somebody challenging the ball and then a teammate follows up, then the teammate is also playing well positionally because those two players as a unison have positioned themselves correctly according to what the other person is doing. The person who's challenging is doing it at a time that somebody else can follow up, and the person following up is arriving at the right time to follow up on the challenge. So that's good positional play and defense. And then your third man just needs to be like far enough away that if something goes really drastically wrong with that engagement, that they're ready to cover the other options, like whether it's a pinch on target from distance, whether it's a big dunk on target from distance, whether it's a 50 into an infield, whatever else. A good third man positioning would be covering the options that aren't beneficial. And then when it comes to an attack, it's the complete opposite. You want your second man to be positioning to play really aggressively off an engagement, and you want the first guy on the ball to be making a play on the ball, whether it's an outplay or just a 50-50 that makes sense based on where his teammates are. That's positional play. It's not necessarily where you're driving, it's what you're doing relative to the ball and relative to the other players in the field. So you've got to think about positional play less about where a player is and more about where they not so much about where they are in the field, and more about where they are relative to the ball and relative to the players. And that's something I think Rattles does very well. And I think newer players to teams, like players like LJ, tend to need time before they level up positionally because they're new on the team, and they need to learn how their teammates play and start to read them. Yeah, one of the things I'm worried about with new players as well is that they might just be scared. Like qualifier isn't that scary because it's not the last chance. But when it comes to like fall regional number 1, that's really scary. So let me ask you guys in chat a question. Who's more likely to choke an open net miss in the first regional during Swiss round 5, LJ or Rattles? Okay, Abjack, yeah, but okay. Between LJ and Rattles, who's more likely to miss an open net in round 5, game 5 of Swiss stage? Kind of curious to see what people think. Who's more likely to choke it? Like, who's more likely to choke in that really high pressure situation? I think probably LJ, because he's got a lot to prove. He's replaced a legend in the NA scene, and he has to prove that that was a good decision by the team and by him. So I think there's way more pressure on him. And as a younger, less experienced player, he's more likely, I think, online to blunder that than a player like Rettles, who I think is pretty consistent in those situations relative to him. But funnily enough, like that seems to, at least from what I understand, only apply to online Rocket League. When you go to LANs, it's kind of flipped. Like the more experience a player has, the more likely they are to choke on LAN for some reason. I guess it's because at that point they're the ones who are supposed to do well, and there's pressure on them to perform because they're supposed to perform, and the young players are, well, who cares? Nobody's really expecting the young players to do well, so suddenly there's no pressure on them and they do well. It's kind of a weird situation. Yeah, I think if Space Station make LAN, I'd expect LJ to be really good, because I think he'd just play like, I don't know, monkey the ball and just be really effective. Online, I think he's going to be more scared. LJ could choke, and he would still be better than the guy he replaced. It's funny how you've used the word could and would in that order. Very unbiased comment. Good to hear that Space Station fans are willing to commit to an outcome regardless of watching the evidence and what that might be. Yeah, I think the Furia decal is the fastest decal in the game. It makes you faster. That's why you should use it.